Hello there. Uh, Happy to see a lot of my friends here. Am I visible? If I'm visible, just put me a thumbs up on the chat box, and if I'm audible. Great. Abhigna, am I audible? Visible? Can you chat on the thumbs up? Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you for this first unique activity which we are trying to do. It's an online platform which we're trying to see whether we can share a lot of our thoughts about what needs to be done in the post-COVID era. I think a big challenge has come across to us in terms of the way we would be designing from now on. But I think we, as a community of human beings, have been kind of taking things for granted and kind of consuming things at a stage where we have kept our other siblings or partners in the ecosystem in a way. I mean to say, other than human beings, every other organism is kept at bay and not really being addressed, and everything is being designed for being consumed by us. So we wanted to see whether we can create a platform and start sharing various ideas of building eco-sensitive build forms. So in that platform, I said, let me take a start on trying to share some of our projects and the processes which we address to see what is eco-friendly and what is eco-sensitive. I wouldn't call that eco-friendly because as an architect, the moment you start using any material for construction, you're not being eco-friendly. But am I eco-sensitive? Am I sensitive to what we've been doing to the system? And then how do we really design a cost-effective building? If some people are not able to see me, I think I would definitely ask you to restart the site, right? So what we'll try and do is we will try and understand why we need to really look at a system which needs to be eco-conscious, right? I will start off with a small presentation and great. Kham Design is a firm which we have set up close to around 2 decades ago. It started in 1998, and then we've been exploring various ideas of space creation. And Kham is a word from Sanskrit which means concepts of space. And these are some of our projects which we have done, and we will try and look at it in detail. But I would like to start off with this question as to if from the formation of Earth, which was close to around 4.55 billion years ago, or close to 5 billion years ago, if I'm right, if I take this whole time period as one 12-hour clock, when do you think humankind came into being, right? If I'm looking at the start of Earth was at 0, and then it started moving, and now it's around 12 o'clock till now. When do you think the human beings came? We were here only for the last 3 seconds, right? If I'm really looking at, this is the 12-hour clock, this is 0, and this is where we are back here at 12 o'clock. The first bacteria happened somewhere at 3 o'clock, and the first lichens came in somewhere around 10:40. And the first vertebrate and land animals came in around 11 o'clock. And in the last 3 seconds is what we have really looked at consuming resources from Earth. Now, what's happening because of that? The way we consume is that we always have a very linear system of consumption, which is basically um, you kind of take things away from Earth, you start producing it, and then you consume that whole thing, and then we send it to a landfill. The end product for a process is always a landfill, unfortunately so, right? And this is a very, very linear system of consumption, which is very strongly known as a cradle to grave concept, right? We don't understand what happens to our material after its usage. So it's something which we need to strongly work on and look at. This is the first premise under which we need to start looking at design, is to see whether can we design in such a way that not too much of it goes into a landfill, right? I'm sure we all understand the three basic R's, which is reduce, recycle, and renew. But I think the biggest R is redesign, because the moment you start redesigning any process, which starts off with the way you extract materials from Earth and start consuming it, and can I look at it as a food for another process at the end of that consumption? Now, if I'm really looking at what's happening with our construction industry, the construction industry is one of the biggest partners in waste generation. We generate one of the biggest waste Earth faces, and it's something which we really need to look at and address it. I'm happy that a lot of fellow architects are really addressing the kind of work which requires waste to be not understood as a waste with the landfill, but something which we can use later. What has all this happened? What has all this caused? The way we are creating consumption is what is called as an Earth Overshoot Day. Earth Overshoot Day is something where, if I'll give you a simple example of saying that I put 100 rupees in the bank and the bank gives me an interest of a single rupee. And the moment I take that single rupee away from my saving every year, the principal remains same at 100 rupees. But the moment I start taking off more than 1 rupee, which is 1 rupee 1 paisa, 1 rupee 2 paisa, 1 rupee 3 paisa, we start reducing the principal amount, and thereby the consumption or the revitalization of Earth's resources will start reducing. The way we have been looking at this, this was being studied by United Nations, and they really came out with this data and started understanding what is the level of reclaiming of resources by Mother Earth. It can reproduce certain things, but how much can it reproduce? It could be water, it could be rain, it could be natural resources and things like that. So the way we've been consuming, it started off somewhere in the 1980s when we started consuming more than what the Earth is able to replenish itself, right? And we started consuming more than that. And somewhere now, which is 2020, we are almost 1.5 to 1.6 times of Earth. We don't have 1.6 Earths, but the way we are consuming is so much, right? Somewhere the data here talks about somewhere in 2012 we have already consumed 156%. I'm really curious to understand whether this lockdown has made a considerable impact to delay this Earth Overshoot Day this year. This is calculated in terms of calculating when in the year have we consumed this year's resources and when do we start consuming resources from the coming generations, right? So as of today, I think we've finished consumptions of the year's resources by somewhere in the 1st of August, right? And these are some of the big players of consumption, China and United Nations being on the topmost, Russia, India, and Japan taking the second level, and so on and so forth. And we need to really understand, can we look at so much of resources from Mother Earth for our own consumption? Because we are looking at it only as an anthropocentric or a human-centric way of looking at using resources. I'm sure all of you would be having laptops, and if I have to really see what is the weight of each laptop you carry is around 3 kgs approximately. But the amount of resources which is taken out from Mother Earth to generate that 3 kgs of laptop is approximately around 14,000 kgs. 14,000 kgs of resources are taken out of Mother Earth to generate this 3 kg laptop. And what happens to the 13,997 kgs of waste, right? Half of it is used for other things, and another half of it ends up into a landfill. So we need to be really conscious. This is a grave situation. The way we are moving forward, the way we are becoming a consumerist society. This is post-industrialization, which happened basically with the rise of use and throw equipment. At least earlier, we could repair anything which we had created, but now that whole idea of repair itself is gone. Most of your phones is for a single time. The moment it breaks, something happens to it. The best thing the manufacturer says is, please change the phone. They won't repair that phone, right? And the way we are growing out in development is also humongous. Development is brilliant in terms of what we need to look at in terms of conserving resources, rather than consuming too much of resources. Right. Another big challenge is the way we are understanding waste. A few of our countries use waste to be put into landfills. Some of the countries put a lot of their waste into the oceans. And unfortunately, because of the eastern and western gyre, this is the United States of America, and this is Japan. So the waste which is put in on both these sides starts rotating because of the Pacific Ocean gyres, and it approximately creates close to around 100 million tons of waste on the Pacific Ocean. It is said that there's no single fish, even in the bottommost food chain, without a piece of plastic in it. And it's something which we really need to understand. Is it the way we need to look at living our lives forward, right? This is the big gyres which is literally rotating waste and creating a challenge for us. The North Pacific gyre is a matter of huge concern, where a lot of waste is being put by the two most developed countries of the world. Definitely, we see a lot of waste traveling all the way from the United States and being dumped into third world countries, either in Africa or even in Southeast Asia, and part of it gets into the ocean currents. So this is a approximate idea of why we really need to look at the way we are consuming things. So these are certain things which are part of our thought process whenever we are designing a project, right? So I'll be sharing some projects with you in some time now. So I would like you to really understand and see whether is this the path we need to take for building our future buildings. Because the way we are consuming materials is humongous. Materials play a very, very critical role in the way architects look at design, right? So the more materials you use, I mean, today if I really look at building a house in Bangalore, we would want to have materials right from Italian marble all across, all the way from either Italy or Africa or someplace like that, to getting cement from China and sand from Vietnam, things like that. So, or even finishes, light fixtures from across the globe. Yeah, there is a need for lifestyle, but at what cost, right? We can look at making things beautiful within whatever we have in our space. So I will share some of our works and certain certain approaches we have taken in our practice, in terms of making our practice slightly environmentally conscious. I won't really say friendly, but definitely conscious. Let me share the PPT. Great. As I mentioned to you earlier, I think we are an architectural firm. We were established in 1998. Oops, okay, there seems to be some challenge in terms of. I'll try and turn off the autumn. Okay, sorry, slideshow settings. Okay, we are an architectural firm which set up in 1998, which with an idea to explore architectural theory and design. And Kham in Sanskrit means to dwell or to understand space. Sukham and Dukham are some examples of concepts of space. And since we are in the world field of architectural exploration, we thought we'll use Kham as our word, as our sound. One of our pride projects, which is built for Prasanna Nair in Harapnalli, Bangalore, which is near Bannerghatta Forest. This was a site in a private layout, which was a 60-40 site. And a client who was looking at the language which we were trying to explore and also wanted to work with a lot of craftsmen. So we said, let's try and see how that works, and wanted to see whether the landscape becomes a part of the integral process, right? And the other idea was to try and see in terms of minimizing the total usage of walls, right? So can it be spaces which move from one volume to another, and in between becomes only private spaces for the bathroom and the bedroom? Otherwise, can each space overlap each other? So we got a basement where the interaction spaces there, entertainment area happens, where the courtyard, the two courtyard happens in the basement, and then we have a attendance room and attached bathroom for that. And you enter at the ground level, and then it's split down. It's split at. It has a split level where you go to the ground floor and you have the living, kitchen, dining space, and one bedroom, and you go down to the basement here. You come to the first floor, and at the mid level, you will have the child's bedroom. In the upper level, you will have the bedroom for the parents and the study area with the balcony, overlooking the living and the courtyard spaces on either side. So, somewhere integrate that whole thing together. That was the whole idea. The kids' room, which was the slated element out here, uh, uh, had a double height, had a mezzanine floor for study and things like that. Right. So the front volume which you see is actually the kids' room, overlooking this tree there. He gets to see a little bit of birds, and these are mirrored single side windows, glasses. So he is able to see across from inside the room, but the reflection of the tree is cast on the facade. This is the basement floor area where the courtyard happens, and basic pots become the lamp fixtures. You this is something where we call up filler slab, where we really understand what is a filler slab. Is basically, do I need to load my slab to such a level that its self weight itself makes it too heavy for it to spread across? Because the whole idea of a slab is to spread and transfer its loads onto a beam, and thereby transferring it back to a column. So we said, I mean, filler slab is something which has been practiced for a long time, of infilling the slab with other materials wherever you don't need concrete, thereby reducing its self weight. and thereby able to span a larger volume with minimal steel. All right. So you see that happening on the slab. We had local craftsmen working with oxide floors. So this is a black and yellow oxide floor. We had a very good artist inside in our office, Sham, who ended up sketching these lines, and the artist came. I mean, the oxide floor people came, chipped out that lines, and then filled it with yellow oxide. Got some amazing patterns. So you can break even simple systems like the moment we start talking about oxide, it's red oxide with 4 lines on either side and with a green patch, but you can break that, create new geometries, and things like that. This is the living room space where you have a ferro cement wall, which kind of allows light at different levels. This allows light from behind into the basement. This allows light into the living room area, and we got this huge palette for getting a Gond artist to come and paint using his natural colors and techniques. This was also done by a very a very interesting group of Gond artists from Madhya Pradesh, and did their work. Again, furniture, all built-in furniture by rubber wood, which is a byproduct, bamboo railings and things like that, which really makes our usage of materials much lesser. Again, an yellow oxide floor. This is the other court which kind of connects all the 3 floors. This the below is your music hall. At the mid level is your dining area and the kitchen, and that's the study. And this side is the bedroom and another bedroom on top. This is a kid's bed, one during construction, one post construction. Again, interiors were all done at a very simple way, using as less an impactful material as possible. Again, a thin slab there with rib beams holding this structure up. Some more use of that space. Broken rods, which were used as railings, made into a piece of art and made into railings there. If I have to look at this quality of space and say, again, the vault, in the bathrooms are all done with Pavarati finish, which is again from Kerala. The client went all the way down to Kerala, found the right artist, and then we got them to execute this lovely palette where it's dry, waterproof, and no joints, right? Some more projects. Another friend of mine from my college days, Raghavendra, we got a chance to design a residence for him. It was a very, very tight site. Again, around 30 feet by 36 feet and around 19 or 20 feet at the back. So it was a very tight site, and we had to put a 3-bedroom house with a double height space and car park and things like that. So this is the design. Again, as I told you, minimum walls to see the structural systems, and thereby using minimal materials for constructing the walls, plaster, and other things. Right. Again, a ferrocement wall, which kind of becomes a library on the inside, and we have taken that idea of folding the corners of the page whenever we're reading a book onto the facade. So it becomes a sculptural element. It does not require too much of cement or concrete, but it's done out of ferro cement, and it becomes very interesting bookshelves on the inside. Some of the images of the building on the inside. Again, Attangudi flooring, which is the traditional flooring from Attangudi, Tamil Nadu. Now we have some amazing artists producing this in Bangalore also. This is another challenge which we are doing in a place called Ilkal. Ilkal is in north of Karnataka, where temperatures go up to around 47, 48 degrees. So we got a chance to design this building for Mr. Niyaz Ahmed in Ilkal. where the temperatures are quite high. So we had to really understand how do I keep this building cool. So if you really look at it, there are hardly any windows to build in heat gain, but the way the material works uh, and the way the stone walls work in a lot of places, the way courtyards work, and the way the openings, which are basically perforated openings, which kind of keep the make the air cooler and move in. Say, for example, even if you look at the water tank here, the water tank is built with jali all around. So the water tank is not heated up. The water tank is always kept cool because of the jali wall around it. A simple example of explaining how the jali wall works is if I keep my hand in front of my mouth and keep my mouth wide open and blow out, I give out hot air. But if I keep my hand in palm in front of my mouth and close my mouth and blow, I get a cool air. So when goes through a smaller opening, cools down and cools the place outside, inside or outside too. So that was the idea we used in this house. Again, courtyards, again, stone as a material to take care of the south and west side so that you don't have too much of heat gain. Even the heat gain which comes in from there is taken into a courtyard and then moves inside the house. Only the toilet comes here. So the north side has a courtyard which with a water body which takes in this wind and takes the water through, takes this water moisture, goes through this jali and enters this building and moves out onto the western side with a smaller opening there. Because of the west side also having a large opening, because of the movement air, we created a garden space or a water body space which can keep it cool again. So simple things like that. If you really look at it, other than the bathroom and the front office space, there are no walls. Right? The walls are very minimal to create a quality of space. This is the upper floor plan. He was also a granite quarry owner, so we kind of used all the waste granites which he had in his quarry to build his own house. So he was like, "Can I put a lot of marble inside?" And fortunately, we made him not to put marble in the bedrooms, but yeah, as a granite quarry owner, he ended up putting a little bit of marble in the living room areas. So that's the west wall with a courtyard. Now it's quite lush green. So even in summers, they don't use fan until it's mid-afternoon, even though the temperatures outside is around 45, 46. Inner temperatures is around 30 degrees less, is around 30 degrees, sorry. So that's the living room garden space with the swing area. They are the jalis which bring in cool air. They are the inclined jalis which bring in cool air. And this old double height gets a mango tile with glass panels and vents on the top itself to take the hot air out. This is another project which we did for a very good friend of mine, Mr. Kannan and his wife Sangeeta. This was recently done where we started really looking at designing using steel as a material. Can I really look at steel as something which can be a material which can, which can be reused at a much later stage? This is just purely an experimentation of what we were trying to do. The ground floor was designed to be a dance studio. The first floor was supposed to be a two-bedroom house. The second, third, and the top floor was supposed to be a four-bedroom house for his parents, for himself and his parents. Now the ground floor is converted into a very famous restaurant which is run by Sangeeta and Kannan called Read Repeat. Some delicious puliyogre and sakar pongal there. So this is in NR Colony, and it's an amazing place to have your lunch. So what we did was we kind of put the staircase and the lift core on the side of getting the side edge, the road side, thereby cutting down noise which moves inside, and then created the floor plates inside. The whole column beam structure was in steel as something which we were thinking of trying to see whether this is one material which can be reused even after the life of the building. This is something we are really exploring in the coming days. I see that we've used a little bit more steel here because this is our first experimentation, and then but now we've been doing a few more projects where steel. We've changed the way we look at steel. We've changed the way even steel is being thought of as structural members. We question in another project of similar nature. We question as to if tree does not transfer loads on a 90-degree, why should a steel columns transfer loads? And we started looking at the Y fork, which kind of spans larger areas, and we could save a lot of steel. For a school which we designed in Bangalore, which is called Arinco Academy, we used 30% steel than what was first calculated as for the steel structure, by just making the small change of looking at how tree transfers loads. Do feel free to put in your questions on the question box. So I will try and answer the questions at the end of this session. Or if there's anybody who wants to make a point, just put your hand across. Want to share something, put your hand across. I'll give you a chance after the presentation. This is the house. As I told you, the staircase core becomes this. Now it's quite lush green, which kind of keeps that place cool. This is the inside of that place where lighting is understood. Look, there's enough light available for us to capitalize on. We shouldn't really look at creating dark spaces and then trying to put on switches, right? But I can always have a lot more light and then put a curtain to cut that light down if it's too harsh. So there's a certain ways of approaching design. The blocks which I see, which you see mostly are the Hurdy blocks which I use for construction, the clay blocks. The clay blocks is one reason why I use them is India is one of the top consumer of topsoil in the world for making bricks. We are on an approximate consume 7,500 hectares of land on an annual basis to make just bricks, right? So these Hurdy blocks are actually larger blocks, which was introduced to me by my mentor and guru Jaisim sir, where we look at kind of using 1/6 of the required topsoil to make these blocks, and they're brilliant at its compression load bearing systems because it all stands on the hollow. And if you really look at a sheet of paper and roll it into a pipe and then start putting load, you'll see the pressure, the load bearing capacity of the hollow by using paper. So this is the same concept, and we've been using the same material in a lot of our projects. Again, a ferrocement wall. Nothing in this picture is artificial lit except for the top, the small circular piece. These pieces are simple 50 rupee flower pots which are kept on the ceiling and the base cut off and glass put there. These are simple PVC pipes kept there, which are waste PVC pipes kept there and with glass kept on top. Right? So you can get some amazing dramatic light into the spaces. Attangudi tiles, you can create any number of palette of colors using these tiles. You can be the master of what you want in that tile. Say, for example, here we've used blue and white. If you really look at Attangudi tiles and go to Chettinad or some other place, you will get each tile with around 5-6 colors. You can make any choice of any color for these tiles, and it's an amazing tile. It's a part of my palette for a long time to come. Some more images of the place. Again, most of the interiors are done by rubber wood, which is a byproduct, which is a plantation wood. A slab, this is the ground floor slab where we looked at building the whole thing with a segmental vault, dry masonry segmental vault, and then put thin screed concrete on top to take the upper slab. So here And this is the two floors of their own usage. Again, if you really look at it, the bedroom and bathrooms are the only walls. Otherwise, there are absolutely no walls in any space. So it's just a flow of each from one space to another. This is another house we did in Ambedkar, near Ambedkar University, which is for a professor. Uh, Again, for the first time, we were trying to really explore the use of funicular shells. Funicular shells are like light segmental domes with very less infill of steel used in the on top of this. In fact, if you do this funicular shell with bricks, you would not even require any steel on top of this. So here we have another funicular shell on the living room. I'm in the basement and looking up. So that actually is made up of clay plates with the central flower pot. And just a moment, I think I've lost screen share. I think I lost screen share, so I'll be going back to those slides. Great. I don't know if all of you heard me from. Am I seen? Am I back? And somebody, because I'm not able to see uh, the screen which you are able to see. So if okay, someone says yes, I'm seen and audible. Okay, so I will go to the presentation. At Shashidar's house, we've explored the funicular shell, where we are looking at clay plates and broken ceramic pieces and ferrocement with very simple thin screed concrete on top. This is the top slab with a flower pot kept ulta on the reverse, and then the base cut off and glass put on top of it. So you get some. You can create magic with basic materials. Okay, I think that would bring me down to the last slide, which of our projects, and this is something which we are trying to do and trying to share various practices, which is looking at cost-effective buildings and or environmentally sensitive buildings, and we intend to continue this for a long time to come. For let's see how long. So we're looking at trying to share different projects, different offices, sharing similar projects every week. I hope we get the same kind of response we got for today's presentation. We were trying to do something on a trial basis, and we had an overwhelming 180 plus registrations for this talk. And again, if I'm really addressing one part which has not been addressed in a lot of these slides, has been about the topic being cost effective and eco sensitive buildings. There are two parts of the cost of any project. One is the structural cost, and the other one is your finishing cost. The finishing cost is what generally moves the cost of a building to a different level, right? We understand that, and we try and see that the finishes can be beautiful and need not be expensive, and thereby cutting down its cost. Structurally, the first part, definitely there would be an approach to understanding structural cost, which is either with the use of the clay block, which is actually the same cost of your regular brick and plaster, but because you're not using cement plaster, the environmental cost comes down. but your slab cost definitely comes down slightly. Your self weight of the building definitely comes down, thereby reducing cost of your foundations and things like that. Also, the moment you start looking at different types of construction, like the funicular shell here or the ferrocement walls in some places, definitely cost comes down, and you can create some beautiful stuff out of that. So, if there are any queries on that, please put it on the question unit. Um, Next week, I've asked a very good friend of mine, architect Pratima Setur, to share works of her own house. No? She has a beautiful house in where is this, near Raja Rajeshwari Nagar. So I've asked her to share her works. So I will be posting the link on the chat box after the slide sharing is done. Please do register for that, and we would like to see the same kind of participation. Another initiative which I am now actively pursuing for the next part of my career is just a moment, guys. I think this needs a little bit of work. Great. Am I visible now? A thumbs up would do great. Awesome. Awesome. Manvi sends me a thumbs up. Okay. Great. Another activity which I'm consciously working on right now is what is called as the Hampi Center of Design. Hampi Center for Design is a design dialogue center situated in this beautiful place in Hampi, where we are trying to create a dialogue center where we intend to do a lot of workshops. We've been doing workshops on nature-inspired design thinking for various professionals and for students of architecture and design. And we'll share with you. I have the data of all the people who have registered today, so I'll be sending in the next after the COVID challenge happens and we are allowed to conduct workshops. I will share a link for our next workshop. Do request people to participate. I'm working with quite a few other groups on workshops. We are working with Pankaj Modi on Setu to do a little bit of conservation workshops at Hampi. We're working with 1:X to do nature-inspired design thinking workshops. We're working with Unbind to do what is this Prabha workshop, which is about rural immersion, where people can come and stay and understand rural expressions. So we're doing a series of workshops on this. We're working with Mansi on documentation of craft. We are setting up an incubation cell for the Kinala crafts in near Koppal. So things like that, and it's a collaborative and a cooperative effort of all students of design, all architects, all designers, anybody with a passion for design thinking or design dialogue. So request everyone to come and participate. Thank you for your time. The network unit will be open, so you can network. The platform has a wonderful system of having tables and 4 chairs, so you can go into any table, sit down. There will be other people in that table, and you can have a video conference with those 4 people and interact and share your ideas. So if you can have a small 10-minute interaction on the table and say, what is that one good thing you've take away, and then share it on the chat box, it should be great. Great. Any queries and questions? I see a lot of queries on the chat box. Let me just see what I can answer. Right. Okay. Okay, I'm seeing more of my visible up. Okay. Okay, rat trap bond. Prashant Setter says that rat trap bond structures uses very less, even though this wall also reduces heat. Yeah, we've used rat trap bonds in a lot of our projects. I've just showcased with me 4 or 5 of my projects from my 20 years of experience. So yeah, we've used rat trap bonds in a lot of places. It's a brilliant construction system which can reduce the self weight of the masonry walls, and also uh, reduce heat, and also use lesser bricks. We've used that. We've used rammed earth. We've used. We are working on different systems of construction. We have created a small consortium of fellow architects. We are working on seeing what kind of sustainable materials we can all practice. How are these home cost effective? I think I've shared that with you in my presentation. I spoke about it. Lost PPT. Okay. Can't see the presentation. Now the natural lighting in the interiors. Thank you. Sir, don't think these buildings are cost effective where clients hire people from different parts of country to parts of India to complete the project. Devashish Sarkar. Great. Yeah, I'm always looking at buying materials which are machine made versus handmade. I wouldn't really want, mind spending my money in getting an artist from Gone, because I think we have left them aside, right? We're getting them across and making him do a piece of work and seeing that he's suitably rewarded is not an expensive affair. Is actually not an expensive affair when I compare that to buying a steel, what do you say, a lighting from Iran. From Italy or Germany or someplace like that. So I think crafts is something which is very important. Definitely, they're cost effective, as I mentioned in my talks. Each of my projects approximately vary anywhere between 1,500 to 2,200 rupees per square feet. We have never crossed a building which is more than 2,200 rupees per square feet. Okay. Do you take up projects to make over existing houses? Yes, we have done a lot of those, where we have taken up existing houses and started looking at how to look. We should understand that any house lifestyle is around 20 years, because the lifestyle of the user changes, and your kid, or if you have built the house, your kid or would want to make a small change or would want to change the whole attire. So yes. So even when you are choosing a material, the whole idea of permanence in India is kind of sadly lost. But if I'm really looking at what will it do it for the next 30, 40 years, and how can I reuse that material later is something interesting. The school which we did is designed in such a way, very frankly, where the school is designed to be shifted to another place after the lease period and things like that. So, anything in rammed earth? Yes, we have explored a few things in rammed earth, but I'm not showcased anything here. But please explore the possibilities of eco-sensitive architecture in 2 or Tier 3 cities for people who are willing to get their projects done in the same manner. Yeah, we have 2 branches. One is in Bangalore, where I operate from my ancestral home, which was built in 1931. And I still live in that place. I haven't altered much of that place, but we have an office space right opposite. So we do that, and we have another office in Hospet, where we are actually designing buildings up to Raichur, up to Gulbarga. In fact, I remember, we did a wonderful hospital in a village called Devdurga in Raichur, which is almost a Tier 3 city, which is actually a Tier 3 city, but where the temperature was the main critical element to be handled in the hospital, along with the image of what the villagers look for in a hospital. So it was a very interesting project. We have done projects in Tier 2, Tier 3 cities. Oops, sorry. Okay. What is red external cladding material in many of your residences? They are not cladding materials. We don't believe in cladding. Most of the materials are load-bearing structures. They are the hollow woody blocks which I mentioned. Architectural flooring is beautiful. Where do we find a vendor in the same in Bangalore? We are creating list, Saranya, and I think we will be able to share it in the group later. I'll share it with the team members here after we create the whole thing. But there is one person in Nayan Delhi who's at right now doing some work. Most of these projects are individual houses. Can we look at using these ideas for larger projects, especially for the lower strata? Definitely can be done. And I think one of the biggest challenges, one of the biggest places we need to really look at such constructions is slum redevelopment units, because I think they're at the moment, sorry, but they're horribly being designed. They're being designed without any sense of what the social or the mindset of those people. I mean, it is actually designed to create more antisocial elements, but it can be designed to make such amazing community spaces. So I'm really interested to see if we could get involved with the government and working on such projects. Ferro cement finishes up. Thank you. Ceiling design is beautiful and gives in a lot of natural light. Thank you. How could these buildings and ideas reach a lot more people, especially considering advertising is not allowed in architecture? Ujwala Sanala. Thank you. I mean, Ujwala, you're an architectural photographer, so you're the person who can share it out to a lot more people. Yeah, I think the social media has definitely opened up, and I see, looking at the participation today with the kind of registrations which happen today, a lot of people are interested to understand these kinds of work. So definitely the media has to move out, and I don't know if we can create some kind of a TV show or something which talks about such things across the people. It would be great. Sindhuji architect, some information on rammed earth. Yeah, definitely rammed earth projects. We will try and see if we can present it in some other of our presentations. How are you finding the artists? I'm sorry, I'm not able to find the name of the person who is running this beautiful association, who is looking at promoting various local craftsmen. Um, I will try and source that link and again put it in the database and share it with everybody, so that there are a lot of people who are supporting local craftsmen, like the way we are trying to work with Kinala Crafts in Koppal. There are a lot of people who do this. Okay. How do you change the structural system based on tree-style transfer of loads? Did you use RCC columns and beams or only steel for the school you referred? In the school, we've used steel structures. We've used an X frame. We have done another resort where we looked at a 2-inch by 4-inch section and created A-frames to look at larger spans, which we had some interesting things. Right. Basavalingappa from Kotak Bank, please send some study material for low-cost houses for rural poor and simple plans at 300 to 400 rupees per square feet. Definitely can be worked on, sir, depending on the project which is in place. So that cost if on a larger scale can be worked out, both in terms of materials, structural systems, and finishes. Have the ferrocement walls created any issues with dampness of cracks? Our initial works with ferrocement had those issues, but with the use of plasticizers into the ferrocement elements, and also using a lot of frost rock elements, we've been able to break down, definitely bring down number of cracks. Cracks are actually good for a building, because a building need to breathe. A building need to expand and contract, right? And the moment building expands and contracts, definitely there would be certain play of cracks, but that is something which can be resolved during a year and then can be repaired continuously. Share postpaid office. You can visit www.khamdesign.com and join us. Great. I think Vinod mentioned it. Pavarati finished, it is dockside flooring. Yeah, similar kind of a thing. Thank you. I think I've answered most of the thing. The website is given below. I'm also sharing the talk by Pratima next week out here. So people do register for this walk next week, which is on 13th at the same time. And we can have some wonderful, I mean, you can see some lovely pieces of work with Pratima there. And please do visit this link and interact. Any questions? Any more questions? Okay, I will put it back onto the networking mode. So if anybody wants to network on the tables, virtual tables, you can do so. And say we'll keep this open for another half an hour for anyone to network, and then we can take a call. Okay. Thank you all for your participation.